Tonight, 60,000 reservists are set to join in Israel's fight against Hamas. A look at how the IDF is moving as the military makes its move to take control of Gaza City.
Plus,
some of these districts, if you look at them, you would have thought that, a 3-year-old drew them. They don't make sense.
As Republicans move ahead with their plans to redraw congressional districts in Texas.
In this case, I don't actually think we're fighting for Democrats. I think we're fighting for communities to have representation.
How some Democrats are still pushing back against what they say is GOP gerrymandering.
And a new museum brings to light the story of educating enslaved children in colonial Williamsburg.
To lie about your past is to deny your future.
The complicated history of how Christianity was used against the students and how sharing their stories can bring healing in modern-day America. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A major new escalation in Gaza as the world watches and waits. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And from our Washington News Bureau, I'm John Jessup. Well, tonight, Israel started a massive offensive on Gaza City, calling up 60,000 reservists and capturing the city's outskirts. Israeli officials say the operation will focus on destroying Hamas's underground tunnel network, a complex system used to move fighters, supplies, and hostages. The escalation comes as the humanitarian crisis deepens with thousands displaced and humanitarian aid groups warning about a lack of aid.
Over the past 2 years, there has been a different proposal every day, different rhetoric, and we've found that all of it has lost its credibility. We hope there will be a proposal.
Behind closed doors, ceasefire talks continue, Hamas reportedly agreeing to a proposal, but so far no response from Israel. Meanwhile, hostage families are begging for their release.
I call upon everyone there and the decision makers, get in a room, sit and reach a deal that will bring back all the 50 hostages. Enough. We have to end this.
Israel only wants a deal that frees all 50 Israeli hostages at once instead of in phases. 50 hostages remain in Gaza. Only about 20 are still expected to be alive.
Well, for more on this, we are joined by Victoria Coates, the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump and Vice President of the Heritage Foundation's Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy.
Victoria, welcome. Good to see you. So Israel has said from the start that its goal was to destroy Hamas. We're 2 years in. The terror group is still a threat. Do you think this new offensive can finally topple Hamas? And what do you see as the end game here, Victoria?
Well, John, Jenna, good to be with you. Yes, I think we are in an endgame state here. We've all seen those horrific videos of the emaciated hostages literally digging their own graves in these horrific terror tunnels underneath of Gaza. It's inhumane. It's disgusting. It has to end. And so I think that is what the Prime Minister is proposing here, that they've tried negotiation. They've tried various other offenses into Gaza. The Israelis control about 75% of Gaza. Hamas is largely disrupted, decimated, leadership removed. So I think they feel that with the clock running out on those 20 remaining living hostages, they want to try to go in. If they can rescue some of them, they desperately want to. But at the same time, there aren't weeks and months anymore for them. So they may as well go in and try to put an end to Hamas and an end to the war.
Do you think Israel could be using the threat of this new offensive and gaining that other 25% of Gaza as a negotiating tactic in these ceasefire talks?
Well, it always could be. I think they're also serious about it. They feel like they've tried everything in the ceasefire talks. The United States and Israel have given Hamas every opportunity to do what is reasonable, what is best for the people of Gaza, however ironic that is. But, Hamas are the ones who are deciding who's eating in Gaza these days. They're the ones who are starving the hostages. And, there are record amounts of aid going in. Now, Hamas may pirate that aid, but Israel is doing everything possible to get humanitarian aid into the Strip. So that is all on Hamas. And I think, a very strong message to our Qatari and Egyptian interlocutors that this is a new phase, that this isn't really a negotiation anymore. This is a do you wish to survive kind of offer on the part of Israel, in which case you're going to release those last 50 hostages, 20 living, and get this done, and then maybe you can live. And that's kind of the terms we're down to here.
Yeah, Victoria, so hostage families in Israel are urging leaders to focus on a deal and not another escalation. How much pressure is Netanyahu facing from within his own country right now?
Oh, this has been the case since literally the afternoon of October 7th, when it became clear that the Hamas had taken 231 hostages, that we had a massive hostage crisis on our hands that is now dragged on for, as you said, almost 2 years. These people have been suffering, and it's agonizing because, of course, you want to do everything possible to bring them home. I've met with the families. We've had some survivors here at Heritage. It does break your heart, and everybody desperately wants to get them back. But we had, under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for a year and a half of this, we had the American president really forgetting about the hostages, not making it a big push to get them back, kind of creating an equivalence between Hamas and Israel. So I think we lost a lot of time there. That is quite grievous, I'm sure, to all, but it is an impossible situation.
All right, Victoria Coates with the Heritage Foundation. We always appreciate it when you make time for us. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Now to the war in Ukraine. More than a dozen people were injured and homes set on fire after a barrage of Russian attacks on Ukraine's Sumy region yesterday. This just days after the president's separate meetings with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. President Trump is pushing for a bilateral meeting between the two sides. So far, there's been no public comment from the Kremlin. Meanwhile, NATO defense leaders were set to hold a meeting today to discuss security protections for Ukraine. The president is ruling out the possibility of U.S. ground troops on the in the region, but saying the U.S. may provide air support instead.
Well, now to the political battle that's been brewing in Texas, where debate over a new congressional map kicked off today in the State House. This time around, though, Democrats have returned after their 2-week absence delayed the process. And
that means the redistricting effort is expected to pass, creating the potential for 5 additional GOP seats. Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London is tracking it all and joins us now with the latest developments. London?
Well, good evening to you. Today's hearing went on for hours after overnight protests inside the state capitol. Earlier on the House floor, a long line of Democrats stood waiting their turn to challenge the process. State Rep Todd Hunter, the Republican who wrote the legislation creating the new map, noted the Supreme Court has districts be redrawn for partisan purposes. He also confirmed the underlying goal is to improve Republican political performance.
Nobody was here for 18 days. And so my view is we're given every opportunity we can. Nobody met with me. Nobody came in. And so I talked to the lawyers, and we increased Republican political performance, and we increased the map from where it was.
Yeah, and that's when Democratic State Rep Chris Turner proposed an amendment to kill this bill. Turner called the move, quote, radical and racially discriminatory, which diminishes the voices of the very communities that make Texas greatly diverse.
Only 8 districts out of the 38 in this map are majority Latino, despite Latinos representing more than 40% of the Texas population. Discrimination against voters of color, sadly, is not new. Texas has a long and painful record when it comes to redistricting. Every decade since the Voting Rights Act of 1965, courts have found that Texas discriminated against voters of color.
As House Democrats returned on Monday, they found themselves assigned round-the-clock police escorts to ensure their attendance at today's session. 7 who refused were confined to the House floor, where they protested on a live stream overnight. The redistricting effort follows a push by President Trump, who hopes to prevent a midterm defeat that could cost Republicans control of the House. Texas Democrats delayed a vote for 15 days by leaving the state in protest. Whatever happens, Democrats say they plan to challenge the new map in court.
All right, Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London. Thanks, Michelle. Well, coming up, National Guard troops from states with higher crime head to Washington. How the White House is defending its D.C. crackdown on crime. Welcome back. President Trump is calling for Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to resign, citing unconfirmed allegations of mortgage fraud.
It's the latest move in his escalating clash with the central bank as the White House pushes for lower interest rates. For more on what's behind the president's demand, let's bring in senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright. Hi, Kelly.
Good evening to you both. Look, this is a situation wherein Lisa Cook, who is part of the Fed chair, she's a governor of the Fed board. She was actually cited by the head of FHFA for mortgage fraud, Bill Pulte, who is the president, Trump's director of the Federal Finance Housing Agency, the regulator, if you will, of Fannie and Freddie Mac. He says his agency received a tip that Lisa Cook, a Federal Reserve governor, said if there is reasonable suspicion that she committed a crime, she should resign or be fired. And in a letter he addressed to Attorney General Pam Bondi, he alleged that Cook claimed 2 homes as her principal residences in 2021 to fraudulently obtain better mortgage lending terms. And Pulte said Cook purchased a home in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and claimed that as her personal residence. Then, just 2 weeks after that, she bought a condo in Atlanta, Georgia, and claimed that as her principal residence as well. So Pulte says this is a very serious issue, and the Department of Justice should look into this. He says the case has nothing to do with the president's displeasure with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell or the criticism of that in not lowering interest rates. He did say what he doesn't understand is how Lisa Cook could be part of the Fed in determining interest rates for the country and at the same time commit mortgage fraud. So there we are with that.
Yeah, Kelly, so GOP states are sending hundreds of additional National Guard troops into D.C. Some of the states, though, they actually have cities where the crime rate is even higher than here in D.C. What message, Kelly, is the White House sending by bringing in more of these troops, and how is this being received locally?
Well, look, just the optics of that those states have higher crime rates than the nation's capital. The optics are not good. The messaging is not good on that particular front. But the bottom line is the White House says that something has to be done about the crime rate here in the nation's capital. And the president has the power to do that at his pleasure to have this federal takeover. Now, with those particular people coming to this nation's capital, the National Guard, they were treated to a visit by Vice President J.D. Vance as well as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth today at Union Station. They went over there to actually buy all of the National Guard members a round of hamburgers, if you will, at a popular restaurant inside Union Station. Well, the people here reacted, some of the people jeering at them, as you can say, and booing them and actually calling them communists and please free D.C. So politically, you can see how dicey this has become. I must tell you that I traveled throughout the city today, particularly to one section called Ward 8, which is a high crime rate where the murder rate is the highest in the city, although it's gone down according to recent numbers. And I didn't see any members of the National Guard. I saw a couple of police officers patrolling the streets of Southeast Washington in Anacostia and Congress Heights. I did, as we just showed you, a lot of National Guard troops as well as police there at Union Station. That causes some people to say that this is all about show and tell and not really get the crime done. But the White House has stated very clearly that it has been able to make more than 450 arrests. The question is, this is going to go on a few more weeks, and the president is possibly going to try to get it so that Congress will pass so that he can continue to have the federalization of the nation's capital, bring crime totally down.
Kelly, and you shared with a few of us earlier that you grew up in Ward 8, so you kind of have some familiarity there. We just have a few seconds left, but the president is quoting that he's going to do everything possible to get rid of mail-in ballots on Monday. We know that the president doesn't have the authority. States actually have the authority to administer how they run their elections. So what is he looking at doing?
Well, according to the U.S. Constitution, you've said it very clearly, the president does not have the authority to change the way elections are conducted. However, Mr. Trump posted on his Truth Social page that he would like to end voting by mailing in ballots, and he would like to stop Americans from having the use of voting machines. We will see how all that plays out between now and midterms.
Okay. Senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright. Kelly, thank you. And after the break, Trump versus the museums. What the president is saying about the Smithsonian's take on American history.
Well, welcome back. The latest target in the president's fight against the so-called woke agenda, the Smithsonian Institution. The Trump administration is beginning to inventory Smithsonian museums to investigate anything deemed to be problematic. This week, Mr. Trump took to Truth Social saying museums are, quote, the last remaining segment of woke, adding that the Smithsonian is out of control and everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. He concluded by saying nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future.
Well, as President Trump pushes back on the Smithsonian, one museum is leaning in, shedding some light on the complicated history of slavery in America. The Williamsburg Bray School is believed to be the oldest known schoolhouse for enslaved children.
The curriculum taught the students how to read, but as CBN's Charlene Aaron explains, it also used Christianity to strengthen the status quo of slavery.
The school became one of several set up across the colonies by the Bray Associates, a missionary arm of the Anglican Church. It taught reading so students could practice the faith of the Church of England, also known as Anglicanism, Virginia's official religion at the time. Jennifer Wilkowski serves as Director of Architectural Preservation and Research for Colonial Williamsburg.
We know that they had books made and shipped here to the Williamsburg Bray School. It was basically a primer, a little spelling and reading, but they also were reading the gospel too, so they were expected to go to church every Sunday.
Researchers from William and Mary put together pieces of the puzzle that led to the groundbreaking archaeological discovery of the school.
Terry Myers, who was a professor at the College of William and Mary, he started to really research the enslaved students and enslaved workers from the college and kind of tied everything together. So he's the one who recognized this building, and then we as architectural historians, we came through in 2020 and we did a study called dendrochronology, and that's where we did tree ring dating of the building, and you can actually take samples of the timbers and get a very specific date. So that's where we learned that the building was built in 1760.
The Bray School taught hundreds of free and enslaved black students from 1760 to 1774. While students learned to read, they were also taught to accept their place as slaves, all within the framework of Christianity.
While it sounds like it is a generous thing, but they also reinforced the tenets of slavery when it came to their curriculum.
Dr. Cassandra Newby-Alexander, professor of history at Norfolk State University.
They had to walk a tightrope of pushing how important it was to educate these people, because they're going to have all these skills. At the end of the day, they're going to be docile, they're going to be good Christians, they're going to follow your rules. Inculcate them with the idea that whatever their status is, it was given to them by God.
Genealogist Elizabeth Drimbus is leading efforts to identify students of the school and find their descendants.
What we know of the students comes from 3 attendance lists or rosters. And that's how we know the names of 87 children who attended the school. We do a little bit of traditional genealogy and oral history, where we are talking with people who have ties to the Williamsburg area, because of their ancestry.
Ancestry linking Janice Kennedy to Elisha and Mary Jones, who attended the school as free black students in 1762. Kennedy says knowing her family's history has helped empower her life.
I self-identify in a more positive way. It's heightened my self-esteem. It's helped me to raise my children, to know who they are, and to realize their power and the power of their presence.
Kennedy, also a manager of African American community engagement for the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, admits knowing how and why the school educated her ancestors is complicated.
When we say school, we're thinking about education. And there is education going on here, but there's also an intentionalism as to teaching these children how to be better servants or slaves to their enslavers or their owners. But these children were able to flip that indoctrination. They're not teaching them how to think, but teaching them what to think.
Dr. Newby Alexander points out that many of the students would go on to join First Baptist Church Williamsburg, one of the oldest Black churches in the country. She believes that connection helped lead to the students' success, and many became teachers.
I see the Brace School as an indicator of how, when you open the door, while you may have a different intent and purpose, people take part of that and embrace it, and it becomes a powerful force in your own agency.
Something Canada sees going beyond just a learning experience.
It's just an igniter and an opening to more relevant, deeper conversations about who we are as a people, how we stepped around and navigated oppression and restrictive laws and conditions that didn't allow us to embrace our humanity and didn't force other folks to see our humanity.
Recently, the Brace School opened as a museum, a move Dr. Newby Alexander hopes can foster healing for Blacks and the nation as a whole.
I'm glad now that Colonial Williamsburg has recognized the importance of bringing that history to the forefront now and making it a part of a narrative that we all need to embrace as a society and culture, because to lie about your past is to deny your future.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Finally tonight, one woman's 4-month cross-country journey makes history.
Imagine that, 4 months. Okay, her purpose, though, it runs much deeper than just setting a record. 29-year-old Brooke Johnson became the first woman to skateboard across the country. The 3,000-mile ride was inspired by her stepfather, who died last year after suffering a spinal cord injury. Before he passed, he challenged Brooke to skate across the country, and she did just that, but with the goal of raising $50,000 for spinal cord research.
Roger left me purpose, and for that, I thank him every single day.
And Brooke has surpassed her goal. So far, she has raised $54,000.
What a great way to memorialize and honor her stepfather. I think what most people probably don't know about Jenna Browder is that she used to skateboard.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No?
Did you?
No.
Yeah.
I would have hurt myself. Thanks for watching.
Have a good night.